Self-criticism, born of perfectionism, can get us into a lot of trouble. I don't know that it's actually born of perfectionism, but it's good enough for now. Besides being very painful at times, it's a huge distraction. The attention and energy that we give to this kind of self-criticism is a drain, it's a drag. Everyone I know who has it, which is most people, would feel much better off without it. But that's just not going to happen so easily. Self-criticism born of perfectionism is really ultimately criticism of our very essence. This is a part of the self being critical of the whole self, of the entire being. This is saying things like, I'm not good enough for anything. I'll never be good enough. I'm unworthy. This kind of self-criticism is very, very common in our culture. Personally, I've struggled with variations of this my entire life. This kind of self-criticism is vague, it's general, it always includes some standards you've inherited from some place or another, standards that are so unrealistic they will never, ever be met. It is self-criticism that puts you down as an entire being and intends to keep you there. It is not about this particular behavior or that particular behavior. It may certainly use a particular behavior to prove its point, but the point is always general. It's about the whole of your being. No matter how much you try, you will never be able to satisfy this type of criticism. It's about your very essence and how lacking and undeserving and just plain not good enough you are. I am referring to this hamster wheel of never feeling good enough that appears to come from the center of your being. And that's what I want to talk about today. Hello and welcome to the 10 Crutches podcast. My name is David. I'm glad you're here. So before I start, I want to mention two things. One, we all make mistakes. We all have ways that we can improve this or that aspect of what we do. So we each need to be able to evaluate our own behaviors, at least somewhat objectively. What was the impact, beyond me, of this behavior of mine? When I do such and such, what happens in the world? This is just a simple adult thing to do, to try and reduce the harmful or damaging effects of our behavior. So there's plenty of behaviors any of us might do, and after some reflection, we might wish to change. And people impacted by our behaviors often have suggestions for us about how we might change and improve. Is there something we've done or are doing that needs evaluation? Or maybe there's something we're not doing and we need to start doing it. So this you can certainly call self-criticism, and it's important to have something, to call it something. So there's a specific thing you did in a specific circumstance. It might be a thing you need to change in general, but you can identify it because it is specific. So you can call it self-criticism if you want, but that's not what I'm talking about here. I'm going to be mentioning this more in the show notes and just talking about how important it is not to be judgmental of yourself when you do legitimately engage in what we might call self-criticism. But once again, that's not what I'm talking about here. Also, I will just mention briefly that after this episode is over, this is number 2, after this episode is over, I'm going to play the outro as usual. That's where my voice comes in, invite you to visit the podcast website, etc., etc. When that's done, I'm going to play an extra little track called Self-Criticism. And I made it a few years ago. It's about 2.5 minutes long. I hope you enjoy it. It's an extra little treat. There'll be some background information on how this track came into being in the show notes. And once again, I'll play it after the outro. So back to this self-criticism thing, born of perfectionism, at least what I'm calling it. So it manifests as this feeling like you're not accepting yourself. You just don't accept yourself. You are judging yourself, and the judgment has already been rendered. you are inadequate. It's painful. It's distressing. You don't want it to be true, but it feels almost independent of you, like the judgment comes from somewhere outside of you, and you're just going to have to bear it. But you don't want to bear it. You don't want this judgment at all. This judgment, it can't be true. You refuse to accept it. So then it's very common to think of a strategy. And I think if you hear the common strategy, you may, like me, come to the conclusion that it's a bit too simplistic. People say, okay, I am not accepting myself. What I have to do is accept myself. I have to do the opposite. I'm not accepting myself right now, and it feels awful, so I'm going to do the opposite, and then it's going to feel better. I cannot tell you how many books I have seen about cultivating self-acceptance. Self-acceptance is a big business. So what this strategy means is that people who are deeply critical of themselves try to correct the bad effects by praising themselves. They try to at least create some balance, but even more, there's going to be so much self-acceptance, it's going to neutralize the self-criticism. It's going to get rid of it. It's going to push it out. There won't be any room for it because I'm going to be so filled with self-acceptance. Instead of telling myself I am bad, I'm going to tell myself I am good. When I'm feeling I am unworthy, I'm going to tell myself I am worthy. I might chant it over and over like a mantra. You can just take whatever bad thing you're feeling and generate some sentence that is the opposite and tell yourself that. It's the basis of all affirmations. It's all those cute sayings that are printed on pillows and coffee mugs and wall hangings. Like I said, it's a big business. The thing is, you are a single self. You are a single being. There's only one of you. So when there's a part of you, an aspect of you that's critical of you, and you're hearing a voice that's critical of you, well, there's three of you now. There's one, the part of you that's critical, saying, I am unworthy or whatever it is. And then there's two, the part of you that's being criticized, the part that's supposed to be unworthy, whatever aspects that are. And then there's the part of you that, number three, is observing it all and feeling distressed by this kind of thing and wanting to do something about it. And so then this third part may decide to create a fourth part, a part that's positive and tells yourself, I am worthy. And there can start to be a lot of people going on inside one person. This part of you, where you can observe the landscape of your personality, where you can be aware of the other parts, that's where you can actually do some thinking. The main thing you want to think about here is that the critical part, the part that is declaring you unworthy, is tricking you. Like a magician can trick you, or a con artist can trick you. Your attention is being diverted. That's the essence of all magic and of all cons. Your attention is diverted, and the trick happens where you are not paying attention. So I'm going to mention two tricks, and then you try them out. See what you think of them. Check them out in your own experience. Two tricks. Here we go. The first trick is to make the initial blob of self-negativity into the beginning of a spiral. This first negative self-statement, let's call it, I am unworthy. That's good enough. Even before you are aware of it, it can lead to feelings of negativity, of being down, sad. And then when you become aware of it, then you start looking for evidence, or you just start seeing evidence. And that intensifies it and makes it seem even truer, which makes it easier to see more evidence, new evidence. And that all leads to you feeling worse. It can really start you down a negative road. But you don't have to react at all to being called unworthy. There's no need to argue about it with yourself. There's no need, and it's totally useless. The critical part of you will be negative till the cows come home. There is no end to the fountain of negativity that can spring up in your awareness. You don't have to worry about that initial negativity. It's just the latest manifestation of negativity. We all have it. We all have the positive, and we all have the negative, and we all have the neutral. We have all kinds of fountains. Well, I think those are the main three. That's just how it is. The main effort you can consciously make is to let go of negativity about the negativity. I'm going to say that again in a different way. The original negativity is nothing to worry about. That single little voice saying, "You are unworthy," simply arises due to whatever causes and conditions triggered it at that time. It doesn't matter. What you want to do is ensure that you don't add to it by becoming negative about the negativity. You don't have to like it either. You don't have to think it's wonderful. "Oh, I'm so truly lucky that I can feel myself to be unworthy." No. Just do your best. Breathe into it. Simply observe it. Become as present as you can in the particular environment you find yourself in. You just observe it. There it is. I am unworthy. That little statement. So not falling for the first trick means not falling for the negativity spiral. It means you add as little as possible to the original negative statement. Will you be able to hear this from me on this little old podcast and then all of a sudden become neutral perfectly? No. You're going to try, fail. You'll find yourself well down the road of some negative spiral without even remembering that you could do anything about it. And so then at that point, you just take a deep breath, you become present, and you let it go. Maybe it's the 10th round. I hate being negative, and I hate that I hate being negative, and I hate that I can't stop being negative. And I hate it. You just stop. You just stop at some point, and then you don't get negative anymore about that. That's just part of the process. You can step out of the spiral at any point. The second trick is that this negativity pretends to be pointing to your whole being. When you make a self-statement, "I am unworthy," it feels like you're talking about the entire being, but that's the trick. It's like this part of you has placed you between two mirrors. And you think all those images you see, you think one of those images says, "You are unworthy," and it's speaking for all of them. It's just speaking for the whole being. But it's not. It's just a little aspect of you. You've been tricked into thinking that an aspect of you can point to the entire you. But an aspect of you is only ever like one of those little reflections in the mirror. It's just a little passing thing. You move this way, you move that way, and you realize the person who you are, the person who's making all those reflections, is different than all those reflections. You're the being who's making all those reflections. And coming more and more into the present means dropping away those two mirrors, dropping away all those reflections of you, and actually starting to be you. It's kind of like that fiery face in The Wizard of Oz, that fiery Dorothy. It's so compelling, all the fire and smoke, and you can't even imagine that around the corner there's some guy behind a curtain. He's just talking into a mic or yelling into a microphone and moving levers and this and that. And he's the guy kind of like, that's what it's like. That's this "I am unworthy." It's coming from some guy behind the curtain. No one part of you can be the entire you. It's impossible, and it's essential to remember this. So, to review, this type of self-criticism born of perfectionism, the kind of negativity that takes the form of "I am unworthy," is pulling two tricks. Trick one is to get you to react to it, to argue with it, to start a wave of negativity and just spiral out. The second trick is pretending to point to the whole being when it can't possibly do that. So I hope you can see how, at least for me in this approach, it makes no sense at all to try to argue with the part that says you are unworthy. It makes no sense to declare, "Oh, but I am worthy. Well, look at this evidence and look at that evidence. Doesn't that make me worthy?" All that does is make the negative part of you rub its little hands together and say, "Oh, I got him. Ah, so what about this? What about that? Oh, but I am worthy. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, but yes, I am. No, 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 no." And then you're off and running in an argument you can never win. I'm not saying to ignore it. You just don't want to add to it. The most important thing I know to recommend is to be as still as possible in the face of it. Of course you want to come up with a plan. Of course you want to do away with all this critical part of you. You want to change this part somehow. You don't want there to be this negative part coming up into awareness. You want to do away with it or change it or convert it or overwhelm it or at least balance it out. And what I'm saying is you have to realize that this negative part is a part of you. Negativity, positivity, it's all part of you. You want to get rid of it? Tough toenails. You can't. I believe it's beyond any capacity any of us have to just simply get rid of it. And partly that's because any new strategy to get rid of it involves creating more parts. So the new part you're creating to counterbalance the negative part, well, maybe it thinks you're worthy and it thinks you're okay and it accepts you and it's a part that pleases you and it tells you good things. It may even want to write things on a piece of paper and post them on the fridge. Well, with that positive part, you're making the same mistake as with the critical part. You're trying to get a part of you that can talk about the entire being. You want to get a little reflection. Instead of the negative one, you look to the other side to get the positive one. It's the same mistake. There's still a you in between the mirrors that needs to just let the mirrors go and simply exist in your present moment. So this single being who you are can have a lot of parts. The critical part may feel like it's criticizing the entire being, but it's not. The part that's praising you may feel like it's praising the entire being, but it's not. When you address this conglomeration of parts head on, the only way to address it is by creating new parts to deal with the parts you don't like, and it's just going to get too confusing. At times, this may be a very wonderful thing to do for some people at some times, and I certainly have used that technique myself. Sometimes you want to get to know all your parts. Very valid. But what I'm trying to say here is that counterbalancing a critical part with a part that's filled with praise is not going to substantially change much of anything. And this is my whole gig. Come into the present moment over and over and over. My whole shtick is about coming into the present moment and being as present as you possibly can in the given moment that you find yourself. The present moment, the really true on the spot, this very moment contains all the parts of you, but it's also clearly beyond all those parts. The present moment, with you really being in it, for example, chopping some carrots for the soup that you're making, or drinking water from a glass, or looking at some clouds in the sky. Whatever the activity is that you're doing, if you're fully present, actively perceiving what's going on around you, the voices in your head can be heard in a more realistic perspective. In fact, they may just quiet down altogether. The more and more you become present, the more and more you're able to just simply be in the moment. This problem of being self-critical, this problem of perfectionism, isn't going to be solved by opposing it directly. What you can have by becoming more and more present is that perfectionism becomes just another aspect, when it does, of some present moment you are fully immersed in. It's an aspect you can genuinely and clearly see isn't really all that important. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. Please visit the home of the 10 Crutches podcast at 10crutches.link. That's 10crutches.link. The book that inspired the podcast, a book I wrote called 10 Crutches for Walking in the Present, is available for free download on the website. While you are there, please take advantage of 2 ways to contact me. You can send me an email, or you can make a voice recording. If you have a great question, I may be able to use it for the podcast. Also on the website, you can visit the archive to hear any published episode and see show notes for any and every show. Thanks so much for listening, and once again, thanks so much for listening, and I won't say it once again. See you next time. Okay, gonna try again. This is supposed to be something about perfectionism. Criticism. Perfectionism. Perfectionism. Criticism. Perfectionism. If you struggle with perfectionism, part of you is watching what happens and then comparing it. What does that mean? It means you have an idea of something that should be, could be, would be, if only you comparing it to the way it thinks you're supposed to be. Supposed to standards. Perfectionism. Self-criticism. Where do these standards come from? They're just floating around the air and they land in our heads and we just get stuck with them. Now we have to live with them. Now we have to try to live up to that standard. Where do the standards come from? Where do the standards come from? What are they doing inside of you? Our beings seem to be under judgment. Our very essence is falling short of something. You can't just say, I'm going to dismantle the judgment project because I've decided the judgment project is bad. Well, that's just more of the judgment project. We've split into a judge who is doing the judging, and then the part of us that receives the judgment and feels bad about it. So now there's 3-4 parts. We're a single being. And yet we act like we have all these parts. We act like we're divided. Reality is right in front of you. That little slice, that little tiny, infinitely small slice of reality that you get to have in front of you. It's your slice. The light hitting your eyes can only be the light hitting your eyes. It's the only light that's hitting those 2 eyes. Those are the only sounds going into those 2 ears. Even though other people hear them, hear it from the same angle as you. They don't see things from the same angle. They don't have the same history. They don't have the same DNA. You are unique at the little tiny, tiny slice of reality that you get to perceive and experience and be within.